when people say, they barely know how to swim, it's just learning how to be comfortable. And I think part of the fear in learning is just like the embarrassment of not knowing how. It's like you put me on ice and I look like a baby giraffe on skates.
Welcome back to another episode of your favorite podcast, Behind the Pro. In this episode, I had a chance to sit down with two Olympic swimmers, gold medalist Breeja Larson and silver medalist Rhyan White. Both of them share their stories and their journeys to the Olympics, the pressures of being an Olympic athlete, plus much, much more. Don't forget, hit the subscribe button and the notifications, and let's go Behind the Pro. So, Rhyan and Breeja, I want to share with you how I actually learned to swim and why. I remember it was third grade. It was the summer going into third grade, and I was playing Little League Baseball. And after the season, we celebrated by going to the coach's house, and he had a pool. And so I'm hanging with my teammates, and they all jump into the deep end. And I'd never been in a pool before, never learned how to swim. So I thought, well, I'll just mimic exactly what the other kids are doing. Well, that didn't work. And I mean, I really tried hard, but you can't punch water. I had to learn that the hard way. So coach jumped in and saves me, pulls me out of the water. And that's going into the school year, our school system had a program where third graders could go to the local college, which was St. Andrew's Presbyterian College. And if your parents signed a permission slip at no cost, you could learn how to swim. And they had this huge pool and you could jump off the diving board. And so that's how I learned to swim, was through the program, but it was because I had that incident that summer.
Oh, no.
And what's interesting, it didn't scare me away from the water. It made me want to learn how to swim. So just know that's where a lot of my questions and my background with the water come from.
That's awesome. Have you been influential with the people close in your life to become water safe as well?
A little bit. I could say with a lot of my friends, the first thing is, well, black people don't swim. And, I would go to pool parties when nobody got in the water. And so it was just never a conversation with a lot of my friends. But now, once I got kids, when the twins were born, that really changed. And so we're getting our daughter, there's a program at the Y where she's going to take swimming lessons. My son's going to get involved. My wife, she can doggy paddle and stay afloat, but I don't know how to push that message. What does it look like? It's, to your point, it's almost like one of those things where, I know how to swim, but the rest of you on your own,
Yeah. It's a scary thing.
Actually a good question.
I think more than anything, when people say, they barely know how to swim, it's just learning how to be comfortable. And I think part of the fear in learning is just like the embarrassment of not knowing how. It's like you put me on ice and I look like a baby giraffe on skates, and just being uncomfortable with that kind of motion. And it's such a body awareness factor. So I so applaud anybody who learns to swim at any age. That's probably my biggest thing, is when you meet someone as an elite athlete and you say your sport, and right away they try to make a connection with you, whether they are awful at that sport or they swam and did something like that in the past. But there's always a hint of embarrassment sometimes. Like, people tend to humble themselves in front of you right away. I shoot that down quickly, very quickly. He was like, I don't know how to swim. I'm like, you should really try. It is very scary, but it's just learning how to be comfortable and slowly being patient with yourself to learn that body awareness. Or if they say, I swam in high school, but I didn't go to college. I'm like, so you're sane. Yeah. You're the sane one who didn't continue.
I tried that, and like I said, I've always enjoyed being around the water. We would go to some of the lakes, and we get to stay at the hotel and go in the pool. But competitively in my area, football and basketball and other things they were the dominant sport. But I tried swimming as a workout. I did is it possible to do a 10th of a lap? And I was done. It's a total body workout. So I applaud any swimmer. I'll stick to football. That workout is a lot easier. So but we're going to get into it. Let's jump into this. So Rhyan and Breeja, let's start with you, Rhyan. Where are you from, and talk about what it was like growing up?
Yeah, I'm from Utah. So it's a city called Harriman. It's about 25-30 minutes from Salt Lake City. So it's really pretty there. There's like really big mountains, and Salt Lake City is kind of the valley is kind of weird because where I live, it's like 30 minutes away, but you can see the city. And that's like a lot different from where I live now, like in Raleigh. There's trees everywhere. You can't see like past anything. But Utah is pretty unique because you live right in the valley and you can see like across the whole thing. So that's really cool. Yeah, I grew up in a big family. I have 5 siblings. So that was super fun, very chaotic. There's always something going on. It's a lot more fun now, I would say, because we're just all grown up. We get along a little bit better. So I'm not the annoying little sister anymore. I think my older brothers think I'm pretty cool. And then I've always been really close with my sister. So yeah, I'm proud to be from Utah.
I grew up in Mesa, Arizona. Pretty humble beginnings. Looking back now, like growing up, I don't think I really saw the situation for what it was. But looking back, it really is very humbling to see how everything kind of fell in together. So I'm one of 7 kids, all
Wow.
sisters. My mom is a
Wow.
queen. She figured it out. We're all really close now, very tight-knit family. But it was definitely a struggle. And probably the biggest thing was fighting for attention and noticing different psychological shifts growing up from humble beginnings and moving my way on up. I actually noticed, which is a really cool shift in how I see things now. Have you ever had an experience with either a friend or even growing up where there's always someone on the other side of the tracks, where it's like someone who's from the private prep school and how they view everyone outside of it, and someone who's from the lower income school viewing the prep school.
Mm-hmm.
And it's been so interesting to see the intimidation factor that it has on both ends, and then having experienced both sides. So growing up in the lower income, you learn to really love the scrappy things you have. And I remember I had this really ugly green winter jacket. I absolutely hated it. And I hated wearing it to school. I was really embarrassed to wear it every day. And then I was running to school to try and hit the stoplight before the red hand showed up. And I ripped it on the fence. And I was in 6th grade, and I had this little shift in my head where I used to hate that jacket. And all of a sudden, because now it was torn, I loved it. It was my favorite jacket, and I would never throw it away. And I see it a lot now when I work with younger kids in that scenario. It's like you get holes in your shoes and you don't want to get rid of them. They're your favorite shoes, and you will wear those until you can't wear them anymore. And it shows how insanely prideful you can be in your possessions at that stage. And then when you shift to the other side, I don't know, I could go into this forever, and I'm going to go off on tangents, but growing up in that scenario and then kind of making my way and kind of miraculously getting to college was another thing. I did summer league growing up. We always had family friends that were able to pitch in and help pay for that. And then my senior year of high school, I decided I wanted to go to college very, very late in the game. But I was really good at track and field and softball and volleyball. And I was okay at swimming. I didn't really like it because my older sister was better, but I knew that was probably my best shot at getting a scholarship. So I swam my senior year of high school for a club team, and then got an opportunity to swim for Texas A&M. And that was a huge shift. And then from there, I think being around more children who had always been in a scenario where they knew they were going to college, they knew they were going to get a degree, they knew they were going to have these expectations set up for themselves, and how much easier it was for them to get there. Not so much financially, but just the mindset of it. Whereas before my junior year of high school or college was for rich, smart, snobby people, not for me. But once it became an option and an opportunity, I took it and held fast. But once I got into college, grad school was for rich, smart, snobby people, not for me, until it became an opportunity and I wanted to take it. And then just slowly seeing that your idea behind what you can possibly do is the main focus point of how to actually get there. When it came to athletics, I had this insane naive perspective that I was going to be an Olympic gymnast when I was 4. I was so good at my cartwheels in my front living room, so good at them. And it was just going to be a thing. And when it came to athletic aspirations, I never allowed anyone to shoot it down. It was just something that was going to happen. And that might have just been coming from that end of a lower income where that's something I could do. There was no limitations to my physical ability, maybe to financial or access to different academic opportunities, but not physically. I could control everything within my own body. I couldn't control outside of it, but I can control in it. And I think growing up with that background really made a very big difference in the athletic success later on.
So if I heard correctly, both of you play multiple sports. So especially with you, Breeja, I mean, you're saying you thought that swimming was your least favorite sport because your older sister was better. What drew you to the water competitively to say, hey, this is my sport. This is the thing I want to continue to pursue? What was it that got you to that point with swimming?
When I was like 5, that's when I started swimming. We did summer league, and I did it with my older brother. So I have 3 older brothers, and then my older sister did it as well. And just as the years went on, the boys kind of fell out of the sport. But my sister and I were really close, like I said, and we would go to practice together all the time and like compete. We were really close in age, so sometimes like part of the year we'd be in the same age group. And we also did like power tumbling, so it's similar to gymnastics, but it's kind of just the floor. But yeah, she was a lot better at that, and slowly I got better at swimming. So we would compete in different spots, but we each got to win a lot, which was fun. And I think just like being competitive with my sister, it sparked something in me to like enjoy racing and enjoy trying to like go to practice and just better myself each day. So yeah, she eventually stopped swimming and she like joined the cheer team at her school, and then I just kept swimming. And after some time I even wanted a little break from swim, and I did cheer for a little bit, but she was even better at it, so I would get a little embarrassed to be getting in my uniform and just know that we went to different schools, but just knowing that she was better, it was kind of like, it seemed like her thing, but it kept us close. Yeah, I think like what drew me to it was just like the competitive nature of swimming. I'm not really a contact sport. I definitely am better in the water. I don't think I'm unathletic, but I feel more comfortable in the water. And so I think that is one thing that like really drew me in.
Ryan, I want to say this as someone who I tried swimming just as a workout. You are an athlete, a great one to
I mean, I
swim.
know.
Trust
Yes.
me, because there's every single muscle is being used. And I used to think, oh, that's not real. I tried it. And again, I got a tenth of a lap, and not one lap out of 10, a tenth of one lap. And every muscle from fingertips to the tips of my toes was sore. And so again, I applaud you guys for you are very good athletes. So Bria, what was your story? What drew you to the war?
Mostly following my older sister around because she liked swimming in
Okay.
summer league. I think the biggest thing that I realized right when I started joining club that would be most successful for me was my ability to continue doing the same motion without having it being stopped. So I was always really powerful, almost a little too powerful for a lot of the sports. So in softball, I was first base and pitcher, and I threw the ball really hard. It just wasn't always in the right direction. I could throw the ball really far. It just wasn't always right to the mitt. And in volleyball, you can only do so many hits before you have to take a break. And in softball, you could only pitch so many times before your arm was done. But in swimming, you could do that same motion over and over, thousands of times of practice. So I thank you, Kevin, for saying that. Just like swimmers are phenomenal athletes in the sense that they have a different kind of endurance, both mentally and physically, and just an internal power, just engine to keep going. And there's so much to focus on. So I give a lot of swim lessons now, and just focusing on how the angles from your fingertips to your elbows, to your arms, to everything else, of how it's angling and how it's pulling and how it's shoving the water around to make sure that you're the most hydrodynamic as possible. It really is beautiful to watch a lot of swimmers who have perfected the technique of making it look easy, and how much mental power it takes to consistently focus on so many things at once to make it look easy like that. It's a different kind of power. It's just a different flavor in general. But my sister definitely drew me to go swim with her. Plus, the mom taxi cab definitely wanted all the kids to go swim in the summertime.
Yeah. It's awesome you guys mentioned that, because for me, getting into sports, it was also my older brothers that got involved in it. And it's interesting, that influence. So the message I'm getting is that if you're the older sibling, your best bet is to bet on your younger sibling. Just lead the way, but bet on the younger sibling taking it to the next level. As I was doing some research on you guys, I found out, Ryan, your specialist is backstroke, if I'm correct.
Yeah.
And Bria, yours is the breaststroke. How do you get to pick your specialized area, or how does that work?
For me, I kind of think the area picked me. I think I've always been pretty good at flying back. When I was 10, I think I got a state record in maybe the 50 fly. So, of course, I've always dreamed of going to the Olympics, and I'm lucky that I got to follow that dream. But as a 10-year-old, I thought I would swim fly at the Olympics, and I ran with that. I told everybody, all my friends, that I was going to the Olympics. And yeah, so first it started out with fly, and then I think just as your body grows and changes, it's gonna do what's easier and like what fits better. So I think in a way the stroke kind of picks you. It's the same with like distances and how your body performs. I like thrive in threshold like aerobic sets where I can't exactly get my, like when it comes to power and sprinting, I'm not the quickest on my toes. And so for me, like the 2-back is just such a sweet spot. I like training for it. I like racing it. I think like repetition is really important. And so we do a lot of stuff in practice where we're just practicing doing like the exact same stroke count, the exact same kick count to try to get like the same times for like a 50 back, and then hopefully it converts into that as you are getting into the race and stuff. But yeah, I think just I'm really good underwater, and that's such a strong suit for backstrokers. I mean, we get to breathe the whole time, so you have to like take advantage of when you are underwater. But yeah, I think probably when I was maybe 13 or 14 was when I went faster in backstroke than fly. And it's weird because actually, like, most of the meets that I've been to, especially in college, the 100 fly is before the 100 back. And my times are like within half a second of each other. So if I had a good 100 fly, it got me super excited because I knew I was going to have a good 100 back at that same meet. But
Now, real quick, you mentioned 100, and we're just for those that may not know,
right.
you mean 100 meters, right?
Yeah.
Now,
Right now,
is that about the
sorry,
same length?
I was just gonna say in the US we swim yards, especially in college
Oh,
it's yards. But like for Olympic trials and Olympics, it'll be meters, so it'll be like a long course pool, and each lap is 50 meters, where short courses like around the world it's 25 meters, but in the US it's 25 yards. It's really tricky and kind
We
of
can't
lame,
change all
but
the pools now.
yeah.
because I'm thinking as I'm thinking
So Ryan, explain
as a
really
sprinter,
quick.
the length on the track,
Mhm.
Oh,
So really quick
and
to
just go ahead.
explain Ryan saying before, if there's non-swimmers listening, stroke count and kick count. So kick count is how many kicks you can do underwater before you reach the top again. And in swimming, there's a 15-meter rule. You can only go 15 meters underwater before you break the surface, unless you're the best stroke, which is breaststroke, and we don't have that rule.
right.
But knowing Ryan being really, really good at knowing her stroke count and kick count allows her to time her flip turn better. And I kind of equate that to timing the bases when you, like, if you run the bases of baseball or softball, you have to have your footing down where you hit it right on the sweet spot every time. There are definitely moments in swimming where you can feel really long or short and kind of stunt your walls. But knowing your stroke count really, really well helps you hit them and just be a seamless transition into the next lap.
Wow. So, Bria, what was your story in getting to, if I'm not mistaken, the breaststroke? How did you find your sweet spot?
I think it was because I could daydream a bit more, and I felt like a frog, and I liked it. Like as a kid, I liked the froggy stroke that you could breathe every stroke and not get yelled at. I don't
That's
like
true.
holding my breath. I've never liked holding my breath. Little did I know that breaststroke becomes an underwater stroke. But I really like it because I think my muscle fibers are different in the sense that I like powerful pushes. I kind of look at it as dolphin kick, which goes with butterfly, and flutter kick, which goes with freestyle and backstroke. It's kind of like jumping rope. You can jump rope for a really long time, have fast feet, whereas breaststroke is kind of like power squats. So you just have really strong pushes with every kick. And I think I'm much more of a medium twitch. I don't think people talk about that enough. Like I'm not quite a fast twitch and definitely not a slow twitch, but my medium twitch is strong. And so just if I could have any sport that has strong, powerful movements, that's my bread and butter. So breaststroke, in a sense, picked me in that way as well. And also with a lot of swimmers, you can see from their skeletal frame of how their feet are positioned and which stroke they might actually take. It's not always true, but on a large percentage scale it is. Breaststrokers tend to be a little bit more duck-footed because if their feet are turned out, then while they're kicking, their feet can catch more water with it. And if you're more pigeon-toed, it's a lot easier to swim better butterfly because your feet are positioned inward to have a better propulsion.
I'm getting an education.
Not
I really
always,
did.
but
I really thought that you guys just would show up and you would pick whatever form you enjoyed, and the coach would either say yay or nay, and then just keep it moving and go and go from there. You kind of stuck with it. Once you pick the best breaststroke in high school, you kind of got to ride this thing out. So I didn't know. So I appreciate that. And then even a person's frame, I didn't know. I appreciate you guys educating me on this. Something else I want you to share with the audience. So I wanted to talk to you guys about your college choices. And you're competing in high school. What is that recruiting process like for swimming? And then why did you choose your respective universities? Because if I'm not mistaken, Ryan, you
why'd you pick
chose
your school?
Alabama. And, coming from Utah, what was that
something.
like going to Alabama? There had to be culture shock all over.
Yeah, no, definitely. From Utah to Alabama, that was such a change. I hadn't really been to the South, honestly, to visit. I don't have any family down there. So my first time to Alabama, I mean, for a good amount of time was my recruiting trip. But yeah, going back to high school, it was really exciting to hear from a bunch of colleges. I had a big list and it had to be narrowed down pretty quickly. I kind of waited in my recruiting process. My class was the first class to, a lot of people were going on unofficials like throughout their junior year, where I just wanted to keep it traditional and wait for my senior year to start, which wasn't a problem. I actually enjoyed it a lot because I think it made my senior year a little bit more exciting. I think some of the kids that are committing their junior year, it makes it hard because then they have to like wait their whole senior year, and it might change some of their decision process, I guess, because I mean, they're just kids like growing up throughout their senior year. They might change their mind or coaches switch and stuff like that. So yeah, I was really excited to hear from all these different coaches like from all over the country, and I had to narrow it down to, I actually like planned for 4 trips for 4 official visits to Kentucky, Alabama, A&M, and then Florida. So I was trying to keep it in the SEC. And I had a lot of fun on my trips. I actually went to Kentucky first, and I almost committed like on the spot because I was just having so much fun. But my parents convinced me to come home and think it over, check out the other schools. And I ended up at Alabama. One of my when I was a club swimmer, I think I was probably like 13 or 14, one of our coaches left our club and he went to coach at Bama. So I really liked the idea of having someone there that knew my club team, knew my club coach, and he had like met my parents a bunch of times. So it was just nice to think I would have like a familiar face, someone out there that was going to be looking out for me because I was so far from home. But yeah, that was I guess like a small part of the decision process, but it definitely played into it. But yeah, I just really liked the team, the atmosphere. My older brothers like played football when I was little, so that was obviously exciting. But yeah, I think my freshman year wasn't really what I had thought it was going to be. It was pretty rocky. I just wasn't swimming super well, and at the end of my freshman year we had a complete coaching change, which a lot of people on the team were pretty sad about or confused just because they had connected with these coaches, but I was really excited. I'm like all for change, especially after that happened. I'm just a big fan of change. I think it shocks your system, shocks your body, and just makes you adapt, and that's a really big thing for me. So I appreciated that a lot. We got like all new coaches and it worked out for the best for me. So I was really lucky.
Now, Rhea, you also were they in the SEC at the time? At
I got both.
Texas A&M?
They switched my
Oh,
junior
okay.
year. So I got the Big 12 and the SEC. SEC has a lot more money. It's very nice.
Okay. Yes, I went to an ACC school, so okay.
I mean, especially as
So
swimmers,
talk
like
to us.
swimmers isn't like revenue making. So when the swimmers get to take a part of like the big fancy gifts for conference, that was really cool.
So talk about that.
my senior year of high school, right? So started club at 17 in August, got a lot faster very quickly, mostly due to size and raw power. To kind of give perspective, speaking of stroke count, when I started swimming club, they counted my strokes to be about, Ryan, you're going to laugh, be nice to me, about 22 strokes for a 25-yard pool in freestyle. That is not very efficient. Within working with me about 30 minutes, they got it down to 12.
Wow. Okay,
And it's just learning how to feel and catch the water. So the power was always there, just not the experience. Coaches start looking at swimmers very young, and it's very easy to track the athletes because they're in a national database of every competition they swim, goes up online, and you can see their times. So swimming is actually very easy to recruit for in that sense. You don't have to do hours and hours of video like you might have to do with football or baseball or volleyball. It's all timed based. So I was never in the system. I never did club. And my senior year, I started, I think, at a 1:10, like a minute 10 seconds for a 100-yard breaststroke, and went down to a minute and 2 seconds. So I dropped almost a second every week. And I remember feeling so excited, and my confidence just catapulted into like the next stratosphere. I was like, I'm going to the Olympics. Calm down. But I started recruiting myself, writing emails to every California school possible. And I believe it started out something like this. Hi, my name is Breeja. I just started swimming about 3 months ago, but I'm getting really fast and I would love to swim for your school.
Oh no.
I don't think they bothered looking up my name at all.
I love how you voice overed your own letter. I love that.
And
That's awesome.
so I lived in Boise for 2 years in high school. My dad's job brought us there. And then I came back my senior year to live with my aunt to start swim club. So Boise State was interested and they offered a partial scholarship, which was very kind. Northern Arizona University was interested. They offered a full ride, which was very kind. Brigham Young University offered a full ride. But I knew so many people that went there and I wanted a different experience. And so I kept looking. And everyone thought I was absolutely crazy for looking somewhere when I already had an entire opportunity to get my college paid for. And the men's coach at Texas A&M was very close with my club coach. And he was trying to see if we had anyone that year. And he said, well, we have a girl. She's big, very, very green, the greenest you could be. But I think she's got something special. So they offered me a trip. And when I showed up and just kind of explained my situation and how dire it was for me to try and get to college, the coach gave me a chance. So he offered me a partial scholarship. And it was a chance I didn't want to give up at all. So that year, they happened to have two national champions, Julia Wilkinson in the 100 freestyle and Allie Atkinson in the 200 breaststroke. And she became my idol. And she went on to do phenomenal things. Allie Atkinson swam for Jamaica. She's a couple world records under her belt. She has done incredible things for the sport of swimming. Very, very happy and humbled to call her a friend. But she's the reason why I went to A&M. And then getting to know how humble and kind the coach was, that was really big to me. I'm super sensitive. And I think in the water, maybe every sport, but in the water, your emotions are running high. You come into the wall, you have 8 seconds to try and lower your heart rate before you push off again and wish that you don't die of lack of oxygen. I'm also a little dramatic sometimes. So it was very, very important for me to know that my coach would be able to have a relationship with me, knowing that I will always give you my best effort. And my best effort in the moment might not be where you want it to be on a time scale, because I was very green. So there were multiple times. So when I committed and went to Texas A&M, I thought I just had the hardest year of my life in swimming club and I was going to be fine. And then freshman year was a rude awakening. There were multiple times I had to finish my practice in the diving well by myself because I was slowing everyone down. Oh, it was so sad, Ryan. Like I really had no business going there. The coach was very, very kind.
Breeja and Rhyan, you both were talking about clinics. Mm-hmm. And Breeja, I know you talked about doing several clinics, and Rhyan, you just mentioned being at a clinic with Breeja. So where did that educational piece come from for the sport to make sure you want to teach through clinics and things like that? Where did that come from?
So Josh Davis actually started it. Josh Davis is a phenomenal ambassador to the sport of swimming. He was a 96 and I believe 2000 Olympian. And he really was started this whole concept of showing up to club teams and giving back to the kids, which is a very, very cool part of swimming. And the fact that we have so many athletes that want to do and are willing to do it. So we go to the club teams and depending on how many swimmers are there to participate, we'll give them a motivational speech, kind of give them our story, help pep them up for the upcoming season. And then we hop in the water with them. We show them different drills and skills. And then at the end, we usually race them. And that part's usually my favorite. I love swimming with the little kids and you give them a little bit of a head start. Sometimes they beat you and they feel just like this monster energy. I'm like, you got it. You did beat me. Good job. But it's amazing. And you get to travel all over the country. And if you meet enough people, you get to travel all over the world. This year, I've done clinics in Anguilla and Puerto Rico. Those are in the Caribbean. And then Egypt, Switzerland, and I'm about to go do one in Guatemala in a couple of weeks.
Wow.
And the cool thing, so
That's awesome.
Ryan, really, get this though. So there are 60 US Olympians every 4 years. Whether we like it or not, we're part of a big group. But internationally, they don't have that many swimmers on their Olympic team. And it's a rare commodity to have a US Olympian, especially a medalist, to go to their club team and give their story and explain that it is possible. And one of the coolest things I think about sharing your experience as an Olympian is that medals are a material object. They signify something phenomenal and incredible. But honestly, if someone said, hey, Breeja, I'll give you 3 more Olympic gold medals. If you let me take away all your memories, I would say not a chance. Yeah. It's so much more about the people you meet, the skills you develop, the places you go, just the experiences that you have in general that creates such a rich career. That is why people want to hear from you rather than the medal count that you really have. And when you can share that experience to kids across the world, really, it really just sparks up the joy in their eyes and they can accomplish so much more. And I think that really comes back again, to the roots of growing up in a lower income, that you don't have to have all the opportunities in the world to make something really big happen. Why shouldn't it be you? Why can't you do it? Now, it's not an easy road. It's very hard. But if you can put in the effort and create the opportunities, which is, again, not easy, definitely doable, you can make phenomenal things happen. And it's really, really incredible. Every 4 years when you see new Olympians join the group, like, it makes my heart so happy. So I was just telling her, Kevin, I'm getting back in the water so that I can get an Olympic trials cut so I can get a free deck pass to watch it.
Hey, do what you got to do. Do what you have to do.
Tickets are
And
expensive.
Breeja, you brought up a good point. And if you don't mind, we could dive into this. Both of you, Olympic medalists. In my sport of football, you two get to experience something that I never will, which is you get to represent this country, the world stage, and compete against the best in the world. What is the difference for you guys when representing your universities versus representing the United States? And then share what that moment was like when you received that medal.
I'll let you go first, Ryan.
Oh, I can go first, yeah. I think as far as like representing your school, and I mean, with the school, you have your team right there, like right next to the pool. They're cheering for you right before you dive in. And I think it's a little bit more of like a family feeling. So after you've been there for a few years, it gets, I don't want to say comfortable, but you're just a little more at ease knowing that they're going to be there like right after your race, no matter how you do. I felt a lot of pressure at the Olympics. It was my first time traveling with the national team, my first year making the national team. I had made the junior team and I actually went to the Youth Olympics, but it was such a small group. There was only, I think, 7 of us. So making the Olympic team was a lot different. And the fact that I had made it into event, very powerful, a lot of pressure. I wish I had been to maybe a Worlds before, but that just wasn't in the cards for me. That's okay. But yeah, just making the team had been a lifelong dream of mine. And I even told my dad, like when I was younger, I have 2 brothers that are Marines, and he asked me one time if I was ever gonna join the military or do anything like that, and I just remember telling him that I wanted to represent the country in a different way, and he just kind of thought about it and was like, and you'd think like, where did these kids come up with this stuff and how do they know what to say? But I think that was a moment like that for my dad. So yeah, it was just like always a dream of mine to make the Olympics and represent the country. I just thought it would be cool to do something similar to what my brothers were doing, but in a completely different way. And putting the cap on, like even when I got my cap, when I got all of the Olympic gear from the team and like everything has the flag on it, it was just super prideful. Like thinking back about it now, I'm even getting like a little choked up, but it's super recent, so I'm very grateful. And even making finals, getting like, so with Team USA, the swim team, if you swim in prelims you get a white cap, but if you swim in finals they give you a black cap. So it's really special to make finals and have the chance to wear that black cap, because it already means so much to wear a white cap with a flag on it, but putting that black cap on and knowing that you're getting in the water to like do your best to win a medal for the country, it just means a lot. And I don't know if there's another feeling in the world that is going to feel the same, so I'm really happy I got to experience that.
Ooh, I like your answer better.
Oh no.
No, it was beautiful. I was shielded very carefully from my coach with that. I credit a lot of the calmness I felt at finals to my coach, Steve Boltman, and Michael Phelps. So how I kind of explain it to parents who get a little overwhelmed when they're asking me like, how do I make my kids faster? I want them to go where you're going. I just kind of explain it. It's like, well, when you're in 2nd grade, you want to be the fastest kid on the playground. You just want to run as fast as you can, beat everybody. And then when you get to junior high, you have all the fastest 2nd graders that are now in junior high. And then you want to be the fastest on that playground. High school, fastest on that playground. Then college is big. You start going national. You want to be the fastest on that playground. And then when you get to the Olympics, the biggest playground, and you want to be the fastest one on that playground. But the really cool part is when you get to the Olympic Village and you see the most phenomenal athletes from all over the world walking around, you see them in the dining hall. And in my opinion, it's a very vulnerable place because you get to see what people are eating and like how they choose to eat before they compete. And they eat the same as we do. You know, I'm sure they had some mornings where they struggled to eat their oatmeal because they were so tired. And it's just a bunch of kids on the playground, the best playground and the highest form playground. But you almost have to take your wide lens and shrink it in and realize that your competition that you have next to you is just a 2nd grader from Russia, just a 2nd grader from China, just a 2nd grader from Denmark, just a 2nd grader from Venezuela, and you're just a 2nd grader from the US. Because it's so easy to see it from a smaller scale of all these kids that have so much talent. And it's whoever is having the most fun, has worked the hardest, who can get their head really in the game. It's just another playground. And so my coach would constantly really encourage us to be goofy and silly. It's like, go out there and have fun. Just have fun. He would always tell us a joke that might have been slightly inappropriate, just to kind of really break us down and laugh a little bit. And then I remember I think I was trying to get super nervous because I knew I was supposed to be super nervous. And so I went over to Michael. I think I bugged him so much. I went over to him and tried to get as many snippets as I could with him. And he was so kind and gracious. And he still is very, very kind and gracious about that. But I remember we were in France for a training trip, and Michael Phelps has the 10,000 calorie diet that we all know from the internet. So I could eat a lot of food. I prided myself on how much food I could eat. So I sat down next to him and I had like a trough of food on my like crate. And I was like, "Hey, Mike." And I looked over and he just had like one plate. And I was like, "Is that like your third or fourth serving?" He goes, "No, I don't eat that much when I'm tapering." I was like, "I thought you ate like 10,000 calories." He goes, "Maybe during some trainings, but a lot of that is British tabloids." And I was like, "I eat this much because of you." So a couple lessons of that, so I learned very quickly from that is not everyone is the same, and you have to figure out what works best for you. Me personally, I eat a lot of food. I don't expect other women to eat as much as I do. I think it's just how quickly I burn calories with genetics. But what Mike said is if you watch a lot of his races, he's so focused. He puts his headphones on and the pool is just as long. The water's just as wet. If you have a lane, you have a chance every single time. He doesn't look at the crowd. He just goes out there and he does his swim race. And one that kind of helped, my first Olympian I ever beat was Amanda Beard. She was 3 months postpartum, having a kid.
Nice.
And I was so proud for beating her. She actually swam very fast. But she went on, she had a kid, and then like 3 months later, I raced her. And then like 5 months later, she was at nationals and she made the national team to go to Pan Pacs because she's phenomenal. She saw me having a panic attack at my first nationals. I had never raced long course before, and it was very, very scary. And she came over. I'll bleep this out for you. But she's like, "Hey, you need to calm the F down. You've done this 1,000 times. I'm like, "I haven't. I've done it twice. I've done it 2 times. I haven't done it a lot of times." She's like, "Well, get over it. Go up on the blocks, do your thing, race." I was like, oh, it was so jarring. And so I went up there, and the funniest thing is I knew I could beat her, right, in my head. No, that was longer than 3 months postpartum. But I knew I could beat her in my head. So in my head, I thought, I'm just going to stick with her. That was a very bad idea. You have to stick with your own race plan. So I went out with her very fast and then died the first 2 meters coming back.
No.
But I think I might have perked a lot of college interest when they saw me that summer. Like, "Oh, who is that going out there so fast?" And she's no longer swimming fast. She's died in the water. Hearing that advice from seasoned Olympians saying, you go out there and it's the same race as it always is. You count your kicks underwater, you count your stroke, you know how much pressure and strength to use with each stroke, and you follow your race plan always. And so that was very comforting. I think that I didn't really allow myself to feel the world pressure at that point. It was just another playground where I got to be silly and goofy and worry about my lane. It's a little different from Ryan's.
I sometimes do that with talking
I
to
wish I
guys
had
about
talked to you
football.
before. Did you still really enjoy it?
Reminding them you're still in the playground. It's the same game. It has not changed. It's same measurements, same rules, has not changed. And that keeps it fun, I think. And that takes a lot of the edge off that you're just there to compete, do the best you can. The sun is going to come up tomorrow. So we have a segment called Shark Bite, and that's where we ask questions, looking for some quick responses, right? So I want to ask you guys, first we'll start with you, Ryan, on the first question, then go to you, Breeja, okay? So who is the GOAT in the water? All-time great.
Well, I mean, probably Michael Phelps, right? I don't know. Katie Ledecky's getting up there, and it's cool. I actually know her. I maybe talked to Michael once, and I've watched a bunch of videos of him speaking, but like knowing that I've had dinner with Katie a number of times, and I've been on trips with her now, so I'm gonna go with Katie Ledecky.
So we got Katie Ledecky. I want to make sure I have pronounced her name right. So we got Katie, yes. And all right, Breeja, for you.
I was going to make this so much more complicated. Like Katie is definitely one of them, but when you say greatest of all time, to me it almost has to go into different categories. So Tracy Calkins swam. I think she swam. Oh, she's going to get really mad if I get this wrong. I think she swam in the 60s, but she had an American record in every single stroke. And Steve Boltman, we really thinks that he has a crush on her. But we watched her videos every year, and I think he still uses them to show proper technique. And if you ever get to watch her videos, Ryan, she holds no bubbles. So bubbles are air in the water, and it's not going to help you if you splash around and make a lot of bubbles. But if you are very smooth when entering the water and grab only water, it's really phenomenal to watch. It's like saying, like, who's your favorite person in the world, and you can't quite do it. Like Michael Medal count.
Go ahead.
And but also Sarah Sjöström. Sarah Sjöström from Sweden is phenomenal and has continued to amaze the world many, many times over. Katinka Hosu might own the most world records from Hungary. And there's so many phenomenal swimmers. It's really hard when you say greatest of all time. A lot of the time it's easiest to just go medal count. So we can easily say Michael because he is a phenomenal athlete, phenomenal. And his mindset techniques boggle me. I've learned so much from just listening. I feel like if you gave me like 5 different categories, I could put 5 different people in them. But I don't know if Tracy Calkins has had shout outs very often. So I'm going to go with Tracy Calkins.
Yeah.
All right. So
you've also seen a lot more swimming than me. So
it's always interesting when people have these GOAT conversations about their respective sports. And for me, you get to learn the history of the sport. And I just knew you guys were going to go with Michael Phelps, but you've educated me on some names that myself and everyone listening needs to go check out, needs to go check these names out of these great athletes that are performing well. So I want to flash back on the Olympics for a second for each one of you. So for Breeja, when you were in the Olympics, you had a technical incident. And a lot of times in those situations, athletes aren't able to psychologically bounce back. How were you able to psychologically bounce back from a situation where you actually were not in the wrong at all? Kind of explain to the audience what happened, but also how you were able to deal with that and to continue on and compete.
Absolutely. So we're going to go back to stroke count really quick and how important it is to know how many strokes to take per lap for you specifically. I had gotten so good at visualizing. I could sit in a dark room, close my eyes to the stopwatch, and see everything in the pool. What the pool would look like, what it would smell like, what the crowd would sound like, what the adrenaline would feel like, everything ready to go. And I would sit there with a stopwatch, and once the timer would go off, I would sit there, I would breathe, how many times I would breathe. I would pull on my knees for every stroke. And I got so good at it that I could get within almost 1/10 of the time that I wanted to go. And I just did it over and over and over and over. And you do a lot of different math problems per se of how many strokes, how long you do each stroke for until you get the time that you want. So in prelims, my plan for Olympic trials and the Olympics was very simple. Go out pretty easy. Just stay really relaxed. I was very good at relaxed speed. Not sloppy, but just relaxed speed. So I went the time I was supposed to go in prelims, felt confident, went on to semifinals. So, all right, let's go a little bit faster, have a little bit more effort. Went out for semifinals, made it back to finals. But before finals, I sat in a dark room and I visualized myself winning the Olympic gold 100 times. And I had the most insane confidence, Kevin, going into it. I remember doing my warm-up before the event and everything went perfect. I'd never been so fast at such an easy speed. And I went into the ready room and my goggles weren't even fogging up. Everything was perfectly aligned. I went out there. The adrenaline was just how I imagined it. The smell, the look, the taste, everything was just there. And so we got up on the blocks and I just had this buzzing energy of just like, this is it. And I reached down at the end of the blocks and I got ready soon and really early because it takes me a while to get settled. So I grabbed the edge, I flexed all my muscles, I heard the buzzer and I jumped. And while I was still in the air, I realized that he never said, take your mark. And when I hit the water, I looked over, which you're not supposed to do. You're not supposed to break your streamline. And I realized there weren't any bubbles from other people jumping in. So I slowly came up and I looked around and it just seemed so dingly quiet. Every Jumbotron screen had my face blasted on it. And I was mortified because I hadn't visualized that happening. That wasn't part of the plan. So I hopped out and I just waited and no one said anything. No one said I was disqualified. No one said that I was okay. It was just silent for a couple of minutes. And then they told everyone to step off the blocks and we waited, still not saying anything. And eventually they told us to get back up. And so when I got back up on the blocks the second time, in my head, the only thing I was trying to just stream over and over is, you still got this, you still got this, you still got this. We know exactly how many strokes to take, how long to stay underwater. You can still get everything you've worked for. So the second time I dove into the water with everybody else, I noticed right away that the big underwater camera was beneath my lane. I got really excited and I started chasing the camera, thinking on TV, the camera always follows the fastest person. So if I just beat the camera, I'm going to win an Olympic gold medal and my life is going to be unicorn and rainbows forever. This is amazing. I am so lucky to have this camera. Get it. Go get the camera. The most juvenile mistakes I've ever made in my life. So I had
Wow.
a surge of adrenaline halfway through the race when I usually got it towards the end, but I thought it was a good thing, and started racing back as fast as I could and just lost all energy, probably about 15 meters left of the race. But even at that point, my brain was still linked in. I was just like, nope, I'm still going to win. I'm still going to win. I touched the wall and I looked up at the Jumbotron. But the first thing I noticed is at least the starting blocks in London will have lights, and it'll show you right away if there's one light for first, two lights for second, or three lights for third.
Oh, wow.
So I checked my
Wow.
block and there weren't any lights. And I was like, well, maybe that's a technical malfunction.
Oh, no.
And looked up at the Jumbotron,
Yeah.
and so I got sixth place. And right away, I went into a spiral of what's going to happen. I just lost Team USA a medal. Everyone who's watching the TV for swimming is going to flip the channel. All the little kids that were cheering us on are going to feel blah, blah, and just went into a very, very dark spiral. And I knew I would tend to do that when emotions were high. So I took a deep breath and looked around again and noticed that I was at the Olympic Games, and I just had the opportunity to race 7 of the fastest females on the planet. And the first place winner was Ruta Meliutaitė, and she was 15 years old from Lithuania. And I looked at her, and she just reminded me of those gymnasts when I was younger. They looked so strong and beautiful and powerful on screen, and they were little like me. So if they could do it, I could do it. And I looked at Ruta, and the only thing in my mind right now was, you just inspired millions of little girls all around the world that are going to see you did this at 15. You can do it. They can do it. And I loved being part of that. I thought that was so amazing. Now, did I want a medal? Yeah, I wanted a medal. Yeah, absolutely, I did. But that moment was so special, and I'm so, so proud to be a part of that. And when I mentioned earlier the Jamaican swimmer, Allie Atkinson, she was also in that heat with me. So we left the pool deck holding hands, and it was a very, very magical thing. And I wouldn't trade that experience for anything. You really have to work on that mindset and see the situation for what it is. Did I make a mistake? Absolutely. Huge mistake. Did I learn from it? Yes, I did. I'm very careful when I get up on the blocks. Do not take my mark until I hear it. But again, going back to it, and it took me a while, I think, to be really, really happy with that event all the time when thinking about it. But again, like it's not about the amount of medals, but the experience and how incredibly fortunate it was to have that experience. I just remember like zooming back into like my 8-year-old brain, doing cartwheels in the living room, saying, I'm going to go to the Olympics and be a gymnast. And thinking like, oh my gosh, I'm here. This is insane. It was a really cool moment for that like inner child moment of like, this is phenomenal.
So, Ryan, you also were part of the Olympics. Talk about a little bit more of your experience as, as an individual. How did you talked earlier about the pressure. How did you deal with the pressure, but also what did it feel like when you were part of the relay team and you also medaled there and had that success?
Yeah, I think like Bria was saying, like it's so important to go to those people that have been to the Olympics before because they have so much good advice. And I actually went and talked with one of the coaches. I spoke with some of the girls and they were very helpful, but I don't know, I just wasn't getting what I needed to hear. So I went to one of the coaches and I just told her I was freaking out. I'm sure I had tears in my eyes and I was telling her I was so scared, and she just said, come here for a second. And she pulled me to the side. And she just told me, shoot, sorry, I'm like getting a little choked up thinking back to this moment. It's so fresh. She just asked me, she said, the stands are empty, so there's nobody there. You can picture whoever you want to be in these stands. Because of COVID, no one was able to attend any of the events. So she said, you get the opportunity to picture whoever you want in the stands, and you can fill it up or you can make it as small as you want, but you get to choose who's there on your front row watching you. And I just sat there and I kind of thought about it for a second, and she asked me, are your parents gonna come? Are your siblings gonna be there? Like, which of your close friends are coming? And she just told me that whoever was on my front row was gonna be so proud of me, like love me no matter what, no matter how I swam, and all that they would want me to do is do my best and try to enjoy it and just know that they were there no matter what. So I even do that still. I think that was like the best advice. That was definitely the piece that I was looking for, something to help me calm my nerves as I was like heading to the ready room and heading to the pool deck. And from then on, that was probably a couple days before my 100 back. Every time I went to the warm-up pool to do my warm-up or just to swim or just to walk around to get familiar with the area, because I do that at most meets that I go to. I would just kind of look in a certain spot in the stands, and I would always look at the same one and just picture it, because I knew when I went out to swim my race, I was going to, like, I had planned to look there and just see in my head who was sitting there and who was going to be cheering for me. But yeah, I think that was like the biggest thing for me for as far as pressure. When it came to getting my medal, so my experience was a little different because I was on the prelims relay. So I thought it was really special. Team USA, we have 4 swimmers swim in prelims so that the final swimmers are able to get a good spot, a good lane to compete for like the gold medal. So I was on the prelims relay and I got handed my medal from Regan Smith. So that was a really special experience.
Oh.
They had a little, I know, it was really special. They have the people who aren't swimming in finals a few days after like the race that it is. They have them kind of like gather around and they give us a little bouquet of flowers and there's usually like a little mascot that goes with the medal, and Reagan gave me mine. So that was really special. And then we go over to, in the Olympic Village, they have the rings where everyone takes pictures, and we got to hold up our American flag and take a picture with all 8 of us. So that was super special. It was cool to do it in front of the teammates. Of course, I won my own medal, but getting a relay medal was so special to me. So
That's
I kind
awesome,
of like
guys.
the relay
Go
medals
ahead.
better, honestly, because you do represent your country in every race. But when you're in a relay, I feel like it's almost like a faceless honor. You know, it's like you are America. You are Team USA
yeah,
on
that
the
is
relay.
true.
And like you
Mhm.
represent every 8-year-old little girl sitting cross-legged 2 inches from the TV screen.
Mhm. Swimming
Wow.
relays is definitely a different type of adrenaline too.
Oh yeah.
I mean, I'm the first one, so I sometimes wish I could be good at freestyle so I could be a different leg of the relay, but I'm always the first leg. But yeah, just getting out and like cheering for those that are diving back in and seeing who inches ahead or gets behind and whose exchange is better or faster, who has more heart in the race. It's definitely a different experience than racing for yourself. Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I have one other shark bite question. And I've heard you guys talk about this being very important in your sport. And I think it's important in every sport, especially at a higher level, the mental aspect of it. Mentally, what does it take to compete at the Olympic level as a swimmer? What do you need mentally?
There's too many things. I mean, I think probably everything that I have in myself, somebody else has in their own way. I think, like, how am I going to say this? Everybody has, like, a unique thing that's going to drive them. Whether it's your family, your heart, like your why, I guess. And I think like the biggest thing is just honing in on that, figuring out what it is. But I wouldn't say there's one specific thing, because there were so many factors, different days where I feel certain ways in a different mood, a good mood or a bad mood, and you just kind of have to fight through those things. But I wouldn't say there's one specific thing that everybody has to have, because everyone's different, everyone's special in their own way, and it's just kind of figuring out what works for you and trying to like amplify that, make it shine and show it to the world, I guess.
Okay.
Misty Hyman, she's a 2000 Olympian, incredible swimmer. She's one of the reasons why we have the 15-meter rule. She found out that she was much faster underwater than on top of the water, and she's what we like to call a technician. So in swimming and a lot of sports, there are giants and there are technicians. If you're not a giant, you need to learn how to be a technician to beat the giants. As a giant, technicians freak me out a little bit. Every time I swim with a Japanese, they are so small and petite, and they just swim circles around me. It's insane. It's so cool to see. She told me that you have to give yourself permission to be the best every day, or when you can. And I love that phrase, because if you truly know what it means to be the best, it's scary. It's terrifying. You're going to have to push yourself through so much physical pain in the water. So many times your brain is going to scream at you to take a breath, but you know that you can last a lot longer without that breath. It's giving yourself permission daily to be uncomfortable, to be insanely uncomfortable, and then learning to enjoy it at the same time.
Wow.
The pain
Fun
cave.
question. Fun question about the sport.
Mm-hmm.
Is there trash talk in swimming? Because in football, there's definitely trash talk. Okay, there's if you see more than 2 players around, there's trash talk going on. Trust me. But do you trash talk in swimming?
As a whole, it's a pretty respectful sport. I think every once in a while there's still a lot of gossip that can be very mean, of like pointing fingers of like who might be taking drugs, or, you know, who doesn't even work hard in practice but still swims fast. I think there's gossip when people are too bored to focus on their own business.
Yeah,
in that sense. But
that's usually how it works.
I do like it every once in a while. There's like Lily King was really good at it. She entertained the world for a while, and she could take it. And the thing I really like about Lily's trash talk is she can walk the talk so well.
She can.
She can walk the talk
When does
so
it
well.
happen? When does the
In
trash talk
interviews,
happen? Is it before the race? Oh, it's in
in
interviews. So it's
interviews,
not like next to each other or right before the start, It's not like that.
I think that might
No.
have, it's a lot of it is sometimes nonverbal. So you can see a lot of
Mm.
swimmers who are super
Yeah,
intimidating behind the
mostly.
block. There's a Bahamas swimmer, Ariana Vanderpool Wallace. She would make me pee my pants because she's so intimidating sometimes. She's a technician. She's not super tall, but she is built. She is a hoss. And she swam the 50 free very fast. She would go down to her lane, scoop up water, and then look over it and then just like spray it over everybody's
Oh my
lanes.
gosh.
And every time just
Yeah.
But I think there are
I
some
think another
swimmers. Good.
I think another place that a version of trash talk through body language happens is in warm-ups. So when we go to a meet,
That's a good
it's
point.
not like football where you warm up on your side with all your teammates. You pick a lane and you own that lane. You
Yeah.
run people over, you flip on people. I don't like to flip on people and hurt them, but sometimes I'll scare them and then slowly push off the wall.
On purpose?
But I mean, just to scare them a little, let them know it's
Oh,
my
get it, Ryan.
space.
Ladies and gentlemen, we found the trash talker. We have found the trash
definitely.
talker.
I remember one year at SECs, I went in a lane and a girl. I swam the 100 fly. It was my third event in college, and it was just a fun event. Comes a little. I mean, not the 100 comes easy, but fly, I have a pretty stroke, and it's just the easiest one for my third event. But one of the girls that I was racing came in my lane, and I was just like, this is my warm up lane. Get the heck out of here. So yeah, I think that's another spot to I guess entertain trash talk. We're not really speaking, but it's like nonverbal. This is my space and you're not coming here. But it's all fun. I mean, I'm friends with the girl. So it's kind of like in warm up behind the blocks, it's business. And then we're going down and I missed this wall, or, oh, I saw you underwater. Like, it's fun. So
internationally, that happens a lot, I think. There's like specific countries that kind of butt heads.
Yes.
And they're like, oh. And there's different mannerisms. So I am absolutely in love with the Japanese culture. I remember I did a lot of World Cup events. So World Cup events for the governing body of swimming, I think they still have them. They'll do 9 countries in 3 months. So they'll do 3 clusters. They'll have a cluster in Europe, a cluster in the Middle East, and a cluster in Asia. And so when we went to Japan, I stopped on the wall, but my goggles were still on. And I had one Japanese swimmer stop and just wait, and she was just smiling at me sweetly. And then another Japanese swimmer stopped behind her, and I had 4 or 5 of them stacked up. And then I realized that they were waiting for me to push off and go. And so I took my goggles off, and I was like, "Oh no, go ahead." And part of the culture, they bowed to me, said thank you, and then they continued swimming. And I was just like, "You guys need to be more aggressive." But they were so sweet. I love the Japanese culture. Very different in China. They're much more aggressive, flip right on top of you. And it's just the cultural difference too. And so when you get all the different cultures in the same warm-up pool, you start to see a lot of kind of what Ryan was saying is just different domination factors of this is my lane, this is my race, get out of my way. It's just I'm a little softer. I'm just I don't want to bother anybody. I want to stay over here in my lane where no one can touch me.
So I want you to know I'm going to go back and YouTube the warm-ups and the meets from all the Olympics that I can find, because I want to see this. I want to see this body language. So for both of you, what's next?
I'm getting ready for Olympic trials this summer. I'm training at NC State now, so I moved here in May, and I've enjoyed it a lot. It's a really great training environment for me. I get to train with 2 backstrokers that are on the national team, actually. So Kennedy Noble, she swims the 2 back, and Catherine Burkhoff, she swims the 50 and 100. So we work really well together. But yeah, I'm just training right now, Paris hopeful. So yeah, we'll see from there.
That's awesome.
Awesome. What about you, Bria? What are you doing?
I'm a serial entrepreneur, and I need to hone in on some stuff. So this year I've been to about 10 countries. A lot of it is for speaking engagements and swim clinics. So I've worked with the University of St. Gallen in Switzerland, Stanford, Stellenbosch University in South Africa, different swim clinics in different areas too. So I've loved the gig economy and working the different gigs and being able to meet so many different people. But I know at some point soon, I'm probably gonna have to hone in and focus on one thing. I love sharing and teaching different ways for people to increase their emotional intelligence to help them create that Olympian mindset. So during the pandemic, Airbnb, which is an official sponsor of the International Olympic Committee, the IOC. So since they're an IOC sponsor, they are allowed to use the word Olympian. It's a very, very strictly trademarked word, or Olympic. Or the Olympic rings. It's so heavily trademarked, no one can really use it. So since they are a partner, they can use it. So they have their Airbnb experiences. And when they went online, they had a couple of us already on the platform. And since I had been doing mindset coaching for, at that point, probably 6 or 7 years. Now it's definitely been over a decade. But they asked if I could do any of my services online. I said, absolutely. So I started doing these seminars and got people from all over the world to join in on it during that COVID time. And I think I probably met over 800 people on the platform just doing these seminars. And that just led to so many other gig works. And it was really fun. I really fell in love with public speaking. It's a little difficult sometimes to promote. I don't necessarily like to be a very showy person, but I think sometimes that's what it takes to market yourself. So you've got to learn to be better at that. But I absolutely love doing seminars, help teaching different groups of how to increase their confidence and their motivation, and seeing their brain as different mental muscles and just being very kind to themselves and learning how to strengthen it.
That's awesome. So Ryan, I'm going to be cheering for you and the Olympics this year. Breeja, I'm going to be checking you out online, especially with the mindset coaching, because I'm finding as I get older, that becomes the difference maker is mindset, especially with twins that are 9-year-old. Mindset is very important. But I want to ask you guys something. Like a lot of sports, if not all, they evolve over time. How has competitive swimming internationally, how has that evolved over time?
Technique has made a huge difference. There's been a lot of different legal changes in what is allowed within the strokes. So they just made a big one this year. Ryan, you might know a lot more about it, where in backstroke, you're allowed to be fully submerged underwater from the flags to the wall. And the flags, that's about 5 meters or so. Is that right, Ryan?
Yeah, I think
You're allowed
that's
to be fully
right.
submerged to kick your way underwater into the flags.
You can finish like in underwaters now. It's really interesting.
No, how is that? So I've heard you guys mention this above water, being submerged, how long you can. Is that really a big difference in speed and an advantage by staying submerged versus on top of the water?
There are secretly 5 strokes: butterfly, backstroke, breaststroke, freestyle, and then dolphin kick. Dolphin kick is the most hydrodynamic and fastest that anyone could ever go. There are a lot of really brave swimmers that will do the 50 freestyle and just do the entire thing underwater. They'll get disqualified because of the 15-meter rule, but it's the fastest way to move through the water is through dolphin kick. So it was because of Misty Hyman and other swimmers, they went far past 15 meters before it was a rule. And they realized how fast it was. And it might even be for a liability issue and making sure people stay safe, of why they made that rule, to cut it off at 15 meters and just to make it more structural that way. But there has been a lot of people who push the envelope, who will try and do things that are not against the rules per se. So Ryan Lochte, another really phenomenal American swimmer, he in 2015 was swimming the 200 IM, and he did all of his underwaters off of the walls on his back. He was much faster at kicking on his back than kicking on his stomach. And I don't believe that was against the rules at the time. It was more of like a common culture, or like a common sense. You go on your stomach because you're about to swim on your stomach. But there wasn't a rule that was against it. And so I think because of him, they made it a rule that you have to be on your stomach unless you're swimming backstroke. So a lot of innovative swimmers will find different ways to make their swimming more beneficial. So like one really big thing, you might remember this if you took swim lessons before 2010. When you swim freestyle, they have you enter the water and you make an S pattern while you pull down. That was a very common way to learn freestyle. And same with butterfly, you make an S pattern. But now they just have you anchor your hand and pull all the way through straight down. There's not as much S patterns as before. That was a really big change and shift in how people swam.
Yeah, no, I think too, like, just with technology, well, with like cameras, a lot of people can better their technique. I mean, we have coaches, we have people on the USA Swimming staff that their job is literally to watch you swim underwater, like watch videos of you swimming underwater and critique you and make sure your hands are entering at the right angle to grab enough or the most water as much water as possible. And that is a really good thing. Although it also goes the other way, because now they're also able to call disqualifications with underwater cameras.
That's new though too.
I mean, it probably bothers a lot more breaststrokers than backstrokers. Backstroke is pretty simple. If you don't stay past 15, don't go on your stomach, it's going to be a clean race. But breaststroke is very technical, and every single lane, if you watch the 100 breaststroke at the Olympics, at any worlds, probably even a club swim meet, every lane has a different type of stroke. It's all called breaststroke, but everyone's looks different. Yeah. I personally cannot figure it out. I swim IM in practice like once or twice a week, and I really like the sets that have straight up IM, but sometimes we do 1 round fly, 1 round back, 1 round breast, and by breaststroke I ask if I can do other strokes sometimes, or I try to hold on. But yeah, I think technology has changed the sport a ton as well.
I even look at football now, and so I played in the late 90s, early 2000s, and some of the hits you could easily do, like they were encouraged. But if I did it now, there's no way, I just couldn't play at all. And so
Yeah.
I always wonder how each sport evolves over time and with technology and different things. And you see athletes are getting better each and every year in the particular sport with the training opportunities and access to other resources. So, Breeja, Rhyan, thank you so much for taking the time out. I know you have so much going on. Again, the audience has been educated. I've been educated on it. This has been awesome. Anything else you guys want to share? Any parting words with the audience?
Oh, I was just going to say I don't have anything, and thank you for having us.
A lot of parents who might be listening always want to ask, what can I do for my child? A couple of things that I think that I always make sure the parents know, and just athletes themselves, and then in your everyday life. One, drink more water. When you wake up in the morning, you want to have 16 ounces of water before you have any caffeine. Make sure your kids are drinking water in the morning, you're drinking water in the morning. How important stretching is. If you treat your muscles like you treat your teeth, you should be stretching your muscles every day. So I had a strength trainer tell me that if you eat a banana on Monday and you don't stretch until Friday, that's disgusting. Or you don't brush your teeth until Friday, that's disgusting. You have rotten bananas in your teeth. That's gross. You should brush your teeth every day. And so if you are sitting if you're sitting at your desk all day, your hip flexors are tight, your back's going to start hurting, and you have rotten bananas in your muscles, and that's disgusting. You need to brush out your muscles. By stretching your muscles every day, you're keeping them limber. You're going to help your overall health and wellness, and then just making sure you're adding in time for recovery. There's a lot of things to do outside of your sport to make you better in your sport. So you're working on your mindset and your inner chatter, making sure that you are really taking care of yourself. Better to be your best friend than your own worst enemy, and keep track of it. Some things that I have a lot of kids do is write down the meanest things that are going on in their brain. And it's hard to be honest with yourself at that point when you're actually putting pen to paper. Write out the terrible things that you're saying in your head and then put it away for maybe a day, maybe a week. And then when you're in a really happy state, take it back out and read it as if your best friend was writing it, and realize how mean they're being to themselves and what kind of advice would you give them. Write down that advice. Write down the kindest advice you can for your best friend, and then read that advice when you're back in that state. Because it's really hard to take your own advice, but it's so much easier to give advice. And so by doing small exercises like that, learn how to take your own advice. And it's a muscle. You have to practice it. It's not going to be easy the first time, but you keep working on it and eventually it gets a little bit better. There's a lot of different mindset tricks and just general health and wellness tricks that some people forget about that can make a very big difference in the long run.
Awesome. So to your advice about water, I want to show you guys, this is what my wife brought home to me. Okay.
Yes.
This is about 1 million gallons. Okay. I didn't drink this much water when I played ball. Okay. I don't know what she's expecting from me with all of this. So I had it filled up. This is where it is at this point in the day. Okay. And so my bladder is screaming at me right now. Like, what are you doing? We're not used to this. What you guys have going on real quick, where can we find you guys? So Rhyan, where can we follow you at?
My Instagram, and I'm on Twitter. My Instagram is Rhyan with 3 H's. So I have an H in my name. It's a little unique. My mom thought it would look a little girlier, so there's 3 of them. And my Twitter is white_Rhyan.
Cool. Breeja, how can we find you and follow you?
My name also is spelled a little different, but it's really easy to find because no one else has it. So Breeja Larson is on all of my handles. I'm also BreejaLarson.com. So it's very easy to contact me. I usually respond hopefully within 24 hours. If I don't, just poke me and I'll definitely get back to you. But I love being able to answer any questions that kind of come through. I work like a secret undercover agent with a lot of international younger swimmers. I'll get a lot of people who will poke me saying, hey, I'm 8 years old and I'm from, I got a little German kid once who's so cute. He's like, and I'm really nervous for my meet. What should I do? So usually I just send them like a 10 or 15 second little face clip or a video clip. And the difference that it makes for them that year is insane. And it's really fun. Even now, so 10 years later, I've been doing this for a very long time. So 10 years later, I'll have people who send it to me when they were 6 and then they're 16 and they come back and they show me the clip. And I was like, I sent that? Oh, I'm so happy you liked it. But interacting with people with one-off questions has always been a lot of fun. So never be afraid to reach out, especially if you're a younger athlete. Always be brave enough to reach out to the professional athletes. And I hope that they always end up responding because you guys are the reasons why we have jobs in our sport. So we always appreciate the parents that support the professional athletics and the kids that have dreams because we were once you and you are the future us.
And you will be hearing from me in the twins to help get through that. Awesome, guys. Well, thank you. Is Stefan still around? He can show his subjectively attractive face again.